Twilight Sparkle and Demi Lovato Go to Rehab, an audiobook by Basura Johnson. It was a tranquil night in Ponyville. Pinkie Pie was setting up her bed just how she likes it, tucking herself beneath the cozy sheets. As she rested her eyes, dreaming about getting dicked down by Applejack's brother, she suddenly hears a loud knock on her door, breaking her concentration. She galloped downstairs and opened the door, discovering Twilight Sparkle waiting for her. Twilight's eyes are red and wide open, and her gaze is intense. Twilight smiles like a freak, and without a word, she strides past Pinkie and begins rummaging through her kitchen. She's opening cabinets, searching the fridge, and making a big mess of things. She's obviously looking for something. Pinkie Pie stares curiously and is puzzled by Twilight's odd behavior. She begins to ask, "Twilight, what are you looking for?" Twilight turns her head abruptly, twisting her neck like an owl as she yells, "You got some sugar? I'm craving a sniff." Pinkie realizes that Twilight is referring to some sort of substance. "Twilight, did you relapse?" Twilight smiled a goofy smile, showing all of her crooked yellow teeth while she gleefully responds, "Fuck that sobriety shit. Give me some sugar, mama." Pinkie Pie is taken back by the sight of her dear friend Twilight in such a state. Her hair is a tangled mess. Her eyes glow bright red, and she has shit stains in her ass. Twilight continued frantically looking for substances in Pinkie's kitchen with determination. After a moment of disbelief, Pinkie Pie snapped back into reality. "I don't have any sugar in my house, Twilight. I quit using drugs a long time ago. Those days are over for me. I thought you were over them too, but I guess I thought wrong. You've overstayed your welcome. Please get out." Twilight did not cooperate. Instead, she threw a temper tantrum and started throwing Pinkie's things around the house like a troubled child. As she did this, she said, "But I bet you know who's dealing. Give me their number, you fragment foot bitch." Pinkie Pie was completely disgusted. She felt like she couldn't even look at Twilight. She lost her patience and told herself enough is enough. "That's it. I'm calling Rehab on yo ass." Pinkie grabbed her phone, one of those old-school pink flip phones, and took out her hairy horse hooves to dial Dr. Mike from the human dimension. She yelled out to Mike on the phone, "I need your help. Twilight is snorting again." Twilight, who was watching what Pinkie was doing, slapped the phone out of Pinkie's hands. "Hey, that's my phone. I got that phone from having a one-night stand with Oscar the Grouch, and I do not want to go through that again. You'll pay for that, you big four-headed ass bitch." The flip phone flew across the room, landing on a big pile of shit Pinkie left on the counter, and the two ponies rushed to grab it. They both grip it tightly with their hooves and start pulling on the phone, trying to tear it away from the other's grasp. After a while, Dr. Mike knocks on the door. Twilight reacts with fear and is shocked to see him. She tries to stop Pinkie Pie from opening the door, but Pinkie runs faster than her and opens it. Twilight angrily slaps Pinkie Pie on the booty cheeks, sending her flying across the room, crashing onto a pile of books. Pinkie Pie lets out a loud groan of pain, clutching her sore bottom after Twilight's slap. Dr. Mike enters the cottage and angrily shouts at Twilight, "Twilight, what have you done?" He rushes over to help Pinkie Pie, picking her up in his big, strong arms. He gently puts her down on a nearby couch. Then he looks at Twilight with a strong, determined look in his eyes and says, "It's clear you haven't been taking the recovery process seriously, and I won't allow it to happen anymore. You're coming with me." Twilight tries to run away, but Dr. Mike grabs her with his big, strong man hands and begins to carry Twilight out of Pinkie Pie's home. Twilight tries to resist by dropping herself to the floor, but her efforts are proved useless once Dr. Mike starts dragging her across the floor. Twilight makes a loud whining sound as she's being dragged through the floor. She shouts at the top of her lungs, "So what if I want to try some crack cocaine? Let me live my life, you mediocre white man." Dr. Mike continues to ignore her and takes her through a portal to the human dimension. The portal blinks out of existence quickly, and Pinkie Pie is left standing in front of her cottage door, shaking her head. She mutters to herself, "That hoe is hopeless. Anyways, I'm going back to dreaming about getting nailed by Applejack's brother." The portal opens and dumps Twilight in front of a large white rehabilitation center. The sky is ominous and gray, and the large 5-story building in front of them gives off a creepy, uneasy feeling. As the effects from the drugs wear off, Twilight finally begins to fully take in her surroundings. She realizes what's happened to her and starts to cry as she slowly walks towards the rehab center. Dr. Mike walks alongside Twilight. His voice was soft and comforting. He says that this was for her own good. She needs to get better. They enter the rehab center, and Twilight's eyes are instantly drawn to a scene of Candace Owens being restrained in a straitjacket and wheeled into a different room by a nurse who has large breasts. Twilight continues to follow Dr. Mike as he leads her to an unknown destination. They walk down a hallway until they stop in front of a room with the number 420B. "This will be your new room while you are here." Dr. Mike gestures for Twilight to enter the room. She opens the door herself with her hooves, and she sees a strange woman lounging on the bottom bunk bed. Dr. Mike sees the confusion in Twilight's face and begins to speak. "Twilight, meet Demi Lovato. Demi, meet Twilight Sparkle. You two will be sharing a room while you're here with us." She looks at Demi, trying to get a feel for this stranger. Both of them exchange eye contact, and it's unclear whether they like or dislike each other. Dr. Mike closes the door behind him, leaving the two of them alone in the room. It's eerily quiet, and both women stare at each other, unsure what to make of their new situation. Breaking the silence, Demi begins to speak. "Do you believe in non-binary aliens?" Twilight responds, "Bitch, I am the alien. I'm not from here. Haven't you noticed that I'm a purple unicorn from another dimension?" Demi casually replies, "I've talked to crazier looking entities before. Your appearance doesn't faze me. But I suppose that does explain the horn on your head. I thought it was a dildo. Anyways, does that mean you have magic powers? You should summon some Napoleon ice cream." Twilight rolls her eyes and responds, "They took my magic away before I got here, so I can't use my magic." She pauses and continues, "And even if I did have my magic, I would never use it to summon food. Unicorn magic is sacred. We would never use our magic for such trivial things." Demi smiled a goofy smile, her tooth gap revealing the true horror beneath the surface. "You unicorns are no fun then. My extraterrestrial friends summon all kinds of things. Food, drugs, alcohol, spaceships, the list is endless. All I have to do for them in return is suck the green slimy goo that comes out of their cock." Twilight Sparkle, horrified by what she just heard, shouts, "I think I've heard enough." Dr. Mike abruptly enters the room and announces, "Hey girls, we're having a group therapy session in 2 minutes. Please show up and introduce yourselves to the other patients." Demi gets off the bed and approaches Dr. Mike, standing next to him and looking him directly. She compliments him and says, "You're pretty hot for a doctor. Those doctors I know are balding and middle-aged." She smiles a goofy-looking smile, then walks away before Dr. Mike can respond. Dr. Mike rolls his eyes at Demi and switches his attention to Twilight. He asks her, "Are you coming?" Twilight sighs, sounding rather unmotivated in her reply. Fine, I guess. She slowly follows Dr. Mike out of the room, but her body language indicates that she isn't thrilled about it. They walk down a hallway and reach a door. Dr. Mike holds the door open as Twilight passes through it, and Twilight finds herself in a room with a circle of chairs. People are sitting in the chairs, waiting for the group therapy session to begin. She takes an empty seat next to Demi Lovato, and Dr. Mike sits himself down and begins to lead the group therapy session. Welcome to our group therapy session, he begins. Before we start, why don't we all introduce ourselves? A small green gecko stands up on the chair he's currently sitting in. The chair is 10 times his size, and it makes him look as small as a mouse. Hello, my name is Martin, but I used to be known as the gecko from Geico. I used to live the dream. It only took me 15 minutes or less to save 15% or more on car insurance. He looks down as his eyes grow dim. But I took one too many amphetamines, and Geico found out. They immediately fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. And once I found out that Geico replaced me with that bitchy beard-bellied chameleon from Rango, I went a little crazy. One thing led to another. My parents called this rehab center, and now I'm here. He sits back down on the chair as he lets out a big sigh. Now, a skinny gay cross-dresser stands up from his chair. My name is Jeffree Star. I'm an entrepreneur, makeup artist, and retired YouTuber. I used to live in a $14 million mansion until I moved to my ranch in Wyoming to grow a wheat farm. Everything was going fine until the cop I was hooking up with found my secret stash of weed when he came over. I had to choose between jail and rehab, so I chose rehab. The twink sits back down as he flips his shoulder-length blonde hair with his hands. Now, a black woman with a beautiful silk press wig stands up from her chair. She exudes an essence of arrogance and narcissism, yet there's a sadness in her eyes that suggests something else is going on below the surface. She yells out, "Hi, I'm Azealia Banks. I'm a rapper, a witch, and a full-time cunt. I got sent here because my record label caught me snorting all kinds of crap. They couldn't handle me because they're a bunch of bum bitches." Dr. Mike reprimands Azealia, saying, "We've discussed this before, Azealia. Anger is not the solution." He turns his focus to Tinkerbell, a blonde fairy who stands up wearing a slightly revealing green dress. She begins to introduce herself, saying, "I'm Tinkerbell. I'm a fairy from Pixie Hollow. I was sent here by the Fairy Queen because she saw me selling what they call snortable pixie dust to the other fairies." She sits back down, and now a green frog stands up from his chair. He seems rather awkward as he looks around to address the group. He begins his introduction by saying, "Hello, I'm Kermit the Frog." He pauses for a moment and continues. "I used to work with the Muppets, but things got messy after Miss Piggy called for a divorce. I spiraled out of control and began using heroin to cope with the pain. It made me go crazy, which led me to do sinister things. Long story short, I tried to shoot Miss Piggy in the head, but I forgot to put the bullets in the gun, so she called 5150 on me before I was able to reload." Kermit makes a shrugging motion with his arms as he says, "Whoopsie!" He sits back down again. Twilight and Demi give each other a quick glance of shock as they struggle to process the absurd things that have already been said by the others in the group. Dr. Mike instructs the group, saying, "Thank you all for introducing yourselves. As some of you may have noticed, we have 2 new members with us. Their names are Demi Lovato and Twilight Sparkle. Please let the newcomers know that they are welcomed." The group repeats the word "hello" with little enthusiasm as they direct it towards Demi and Twilight. Twilight asks the group awkwardly, "So, what do you guys do here in these sessions anyways?" Dr. Mike answers with a response that is straightforward and easy to understand. We usually talk about our day-to-day lives, but since you two are new here, I think it would be a great idea to start this off with one of the other members sharing their sobriety journey to motivate you. Azealia groans and complains as she rolls her head back in an exaggerated fashion. Dr. Mike ignores her and continues on, asking, "Does anyone want to share their story regarding their journey to sobriety?" Tinkerbell raises her hand, revealing her hairy armpits. Dr. Mike nods, giving her the approval to speak. Tinkerbell stands up and begins to speak. "Well, my journey has been difficult. I've been sniffing pixie dust since I was 5. Big Mama Belle was an addict, and she would always hide a secret stash of pixie dust in the drawer. I would always sneak a sniff when she wasn't looking. Then, when I was 18, I started to sell pixie dust to fairies that wanted to try it. I got a lot of money from it, but I spent it all on male escorts. Then Queen Sinclair caught me snorting and she banned me from Pixie Hollow. I moved to the human world and used the money I had left to open up a club in Las Vegas called Tinkerbell Strip Club. I started earning money again, but I spent it on the wrong things. I discovered even more substances and I got even crackier. I was so cracky that my butt crack would show when I walked down the streets. The homeless men always wanted to catch a sniff on my crack when I walked by. Anyways, I started being really careless to the point where I did drugs in public. The cops caught me snorting and I was sent here. I was so mad at first, but it's been 6 months since I first got here and I am finally starting to feel normal again. My big boutique no longer reeks of crack and my hair no longer smells like mayonnaise. My wings are starting to shine again, and I'm slowly becoming who I used to be. I'm proud of my sobriety, and I hope to stay sober for as long as I live." The group remains quiet as Tinkerbell wipes a tear from her face. Dr. Mike pats her on the back, offering a small amount of support. Twilight looks visibly confused, and Azealia looks at Tinkerbell with a nasty side eye. Dr. Mike broke the silence. "Thank you for being vulnerable with us, Tinkerbell. That was very inspirational. Now, does anyone else have anything they want to share with the group?" Demi raises her hand. "Oh, one of our new friends wants to comment. Go ahead, Demi. What do you want to tell the group?" Demi blurts out, "That reminds me of a ghost I talked to once. Her name was Joanna. I was ghost hunting with my friends and we found her inside the industrial gas factory. It was kind of hard to breathe there, but we got used to it after 2 minutes. She didn't want to talk to my male friends because she had trauma from men. But I sang one of my songs to her to calm her down." Jeffrey interrupts Demi, yelling, "Bitch, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?" The heads of the rest of the group turn to look at the flamboyant twink. Dr. Mike reprimands Jeffrey, saying, "Jeffrey, that wasn't nice." Demi looks shocked at Jeffrey. She responds, saying with an attitude, "You know, you look a lot like the extraterrestrials I used to converse with on Planet Cum. I wouldn't be surprised if you were one of them. Not that being an extraterrestrial is bad. I adore them." Jeffrey snaps back, "Bitch, excuse me? I am not an alien." Demi is offended by his use of the word alien. She yells at him in anger. "That word is offensive. I talk to extraterrestrials on a daily basis and they do not like that word. Take that back, twink." Azealia Banks tries to suppress her laughter as she covers her mouth with her hand. Dr. Mike interrupts them both in a firm tone. "Guys, stop it right now. This is not what group therapy is for." Jeffrey and Demi both take a moment to calm down after their heated exchange. Dr. Mike speaks again. "Thank you for calming down. Well, I think that's enough for today. Thank you all for your participation. We will have our next session on Wednesday." Dr. Mike gets up from his chair first and walks out the door. Not far behind, Jeffrey starts walking out as he gives Demi a nasty look before leaving. Martin the gecko jumps out of his chair and makes his way to the door. Azealia deliberately steps on the gecko, squashing him to death before walking out. Kermit walks out behind her, leaving slime with every step he takes, as he repetitively whispers to himself, "Miss Piggy," as if he's still in shock from his previous relationship. Tinkerbell looks one last time at Twilight and Demi as she lifts the bag of her green skirt to expose her BBL booty cheeks before flying out the door. This action causes Twilight and Demi to look at each other with a shocked and disgusted expression. They slowly turn their heads towards each other in disbelief, as if they're still trying to process what just happened. Demi puts a space in every word as she slowly says, "What the hell just happened?" Twilight replies, "I have no idea. I can't believe we have to stay here for the next few months. I don't know if I'll survive, if I'm being honest." Demi advises gently, "We should be fine if we stick together." Twilight thinks for a moment, but she ends up deciding to agree. "Yes, that's probably a good idea," Twilight replies firmly, feeling a bit more reassured by Demi's suggestion. "We'll be able to manage this together, as long as we stay close." They rose from their chairs, leaving the therapy room behind. Side by side, they strolled down the rehab hallways. As they turned a corner, they encountered an unexpected sight. A nurse engaged in conversation with none other than Donkey from Shrek. Undeterred, they continued their journey. The hallway opened up into a bustling cafeteria, where patients chatted, laughed, and clinked utensils against trays. "Lunchtime," Twilight observed, her voice a soft whisper. The lunch line was ahead, and there, standing in all his glittery glory, was Frankie Grande. Glitter sparkles on his cheeks, and his outfit, slutty short shorts, paired with a pastel pink tank top, was a testament to his unapologetic fabulousness. Demi, never one to hold back, leaned toward the twunk and asked, "What's on the menu, Bottom?" She asked, her eyes dancing with mischief. Frankie turned, his makeup catching the cafeteria's fluorescent light. "Frozen yogurt," he declared, as he struck a fruity pose. Demi's joy erupted like a confetti cannon. Frozen yogurt, her absolute favorite. She clapped her hands, her enthusiasm contagious. Twilight, ever the observer, chuckled at Demi's exuberance. She appreciated Demi's unfiltered delight, even if her own laughter remained a quiet secret. As they approached the food area, they encountered a lunch lady with an unexpected figure. A human-sized, slimy slug. Her pointy gray hair framed her face, and oversized glasses perched on her nose. It was finally their turn, and the lunch lady placed a cup of yogurt in Demi's tray. Demi's excitement bubbled over as she picked up the tray, anticipation dancing in her eyes. But then, her smile faltered. The label on the cup read, "Sugar-free yogurt." Demi's mouth fell open in shock. "Is this sugar-free?" Demi's voice trembled as she posed the question to the overweight slug. The slug's slimy form wobbled slightly as it nodded, confirming that the yogurt indeed lacked sugar. All of a sudden, in a fit of frustration, Demi hurled the cup of sugar-free yogurt across the room, and it landed squarely on Candace Owens' head. The conservative commentator, caught off guard, fainted as she fell off her wheelchair. The room buzzed with shocking whispers, but Demi wasn't done. She transformed into a tempest of rage, stomping her feet and flailing her hands like an irate toddler denied a cookie. Twilight, standing behind her in the lunch line, tried to suppress her laughter. She'd seen Demi's goofy mannerisms before, but this display was a new level of theatrics. As the chaos unfolded, the slimy lunch lady, now alarmed, shouted, "Security!" A security guard materialized from the distant recesses of the cafeteria, striding purposefully toward Demi. His expression remained neutral, as if he'd seen it all. But Twilight, despite her desire to distance herself from the yogurt-throwing spectacle, stepped forward. She planted herself in front of Demi, her eyes blazing with determination. "No one messes with my friends," she declared, channeling her inner magical pony. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me. Friendship is magic." The security guard, unswayed by Twilight's impassioned speech, produced a taser from his pocket. With clinical precision, he zapped Twilight, rendering her immobile. Then, without hesitation, he aimed the taser at Demi, who had attempted a desperate escape. The cafeteria erupted in gasps. And there, in the midst of it all, the slimy slug lady slithered forward. She leaned over Demi's paralyzed form, her beady eyes fixed on the singer. Her voice dripped with menace. "I'm watching you, Lovato. Always watching." Demi's eyes widened, capturing that final chilling image before they closed. Twilight blinked, her eyes adjusting to the unfamiliar surroundings. She was laying on a navy blue couch, and beside her lay Demi, still unconscious. The office room felt sterile, its walls adorned with motivational posters that seemed oddly out of place. Before them stood a brown desk, its surface cluttered with paperwork and a scattering of pens. And behind that desk sat Dr. Mike, watching Sean Cody on his laptop. His attention was so thoroughly captured that he remained oblivious to their awakening. Twilight leaned over, tapping Demi's shoulder gently. No response. She tried again, shaking her while whispering, "Come on, Demi." Still nothing. Frustration bubbled within her, and she resorted to more drastic measures. With a swift motion, she kicked Demi in the face with one of her hooves. Finally, Demi stirred, flinching as she sat up on the couch. "What happened? Why are we here?" Demi groaned, her voice groggy. Dr. Mike realizes that they are awake and snaps his laptop shut. His gaze shifted to the two disheveled girls. "Good evening, ladies," he began, his tone measured. "It's been brought to my attention that you two were misbehaving in the cafeteria. Care to explain what happened?" Twilight exchanged a glance with Demi. Demi drew in a deep breath, her voice quivering as she began to speak. "I can explain," she said, her words carrying the weight of conviction. "I've always been vocal about my opinions, and I want to use my platform to amplify the voices of those who fear speaking out." Dr. Mike, eyebrows furrowing, listened as Demi continued, her sentences weaving into a tangled web of emotion. "You see," Demi's voice cracked, "when that slimy old hag handed me that sugar-free yogurt, it triggered memories. And I suddenly remembered a tweet I posted 2 years ago about the dangers of diet culture." Her tears flowed freely now, and she wiped them away with the back of her hand. "Being an activist isn't easy," she confessed, "but it's necessary. And yet, despite my convictions, I didn't get the yogurt I wanted, and that ruined my entire week." Demi's vulnerability hung in the air, but the room remained unmoved. Dr. Mike, though too professional to show it, appeared annoyed by Demi's nonsense. And Twilight, bless her equine heart, looked utterly bewildered. Dr. Mike shook his head, his expression stern. "Whatever the case may be," he said firmly, "it doesn't excuse what you did in the cafeteria. You owe Roz an apology for throwing her food across the room." Demi's scowl deepened. "I'd rather die," she retorted, her defiance unwavering. But then, Twilight, who had remained silent until now, snapped. "Dr. Mike," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation, "I can't stay here another second. All these people, they're driving me crazy. Dr. Mike, caught off guard by Twilight's sudden outburst, leaned back in his chair. Leave already? He echoed. You've only been here for 1 day. 1 day, Twilight whined, her frustration palpable. Feels like an eternity. I can't endure another second of it. I'm leaving. And with that declaration, she rose from the couch. Demi, ever the firebrand, stood up as well. This place stinks, and it reeks of piss. I'm coming with you. Demi rises from her chair as well. The air thickens as they approach the office door. The weight of their decision is tangible. Dr. Mike, his stern expression etched with concern, intercepts them. His voice, a low warning, slices through the tension. You can't leave the premises, he admonishes. Serious consequences await beyond these walls. Trust me, you do not want to discover what can happen if you do this. Please, reconsider. The girls, undeterred, exchange a glance. A silent pact forged them between them. They continue their march toward freedom, ignoring the doctor's plea. As they step out of the office and into the hallways, Dr. Mike retreats into his office, his resolve unwavering. Alone now, he murmurs to himself, "Then you leave me no choice." His fingers hover over the phone, trembling slightly. With a deep breath, he dials a number, the last resort. Hello, security? His voice is steady, but the weight of responsibility hangs heavy. We have a code red. 2 patients attempting escape. And one more thing. His gaze hardens. Summon the headmistress. The words linger, a bitter admission of defeat. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but fate had other plans. The headmistress, an enigmatic figure, has a dominating presence that even Dr. Mike fears. Now, she will decide their fate. Twilight and Demi burst into a sprint, their footsteps echoing off the walls. The patients they pass, usually subdued, now erupt into cheers, their eyes alight with rebellion. The nurses, caught off guard, exchanged alarmed glances. The hallway stretches endlessly, a labyrinth of white corridors. Demi, her breath ragged, struggles to match Twilight's stallion velocity. She gasps out, "Hey, not fair! You're a lot faster than me. I'm exhausted. Can I ride on your back? We'll escape faster." Her plea hangs in the air, desperate and urgent. Twilight recoils. "Hell no!" she retorts sharply. "I'm not a horse, you insolent!" Her voice cracks as Demi jumps onto her back, clinking with determination. The unicorn lets out a pained neigh as she gallops onward. Security guards, summoned by the chaos, converge like avenging angels. Their footsteps drum a relentless rhythm. Demi, undeterred, yodels, "Giddy up, horsey!" She slaps Twilight's ass, urging her to greater speed. The unicorn winces, her ethereal derriere stinging. "Ouch! What the fuck is wrong with you?" But the guards are relentless. They close in. Twilight and Demi attempt resistance, a futile struggle against fate. The guards overpower them, tackling the duo. The security guards forcefully carry them to a secluded room and throw them inside as if they were mere luggage. They find themselves surrounded by a stark white padded walls, their escape routes effectively sealed off. Demi's panic escalates. She shrieks and dashes in frantic circles, flailing her arms like a wild creature. But her frenzy is short-lived. She stumbles over her own foot and lands flat on her face. Then she curls herself into a protective ball and begins to sing her song Skyscraper as she rocks herself back and forth. Meanwhile, Twilight, her unicorn senses alert, presses her ear against the door. She strains to catch any sound beyond the sterile confines of the room. And there it is, A familiar voice. It's Dr. Mike. The tension thickens as she listens intently. She eavesdrops on Dr. Mike's conversation with an unfamiliar female voice. Headmistress, he says, I apologize for the short notice, but we're facing a serious situation. Could you assist us in getting these girls back on track? The other person responds, Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Doctor. I'll look into these delinquents. Where are they being held? Dr. Mike points to a nearby door, saying, Right here, miss. Suddenly, the doorknob turns, and Twilight swiftly moves away from her eavesdropping position. Meanwhile, Demi remains curled up in a ball, singing Skyscraper. Twilight approaches her, delivers a sharp smack to the back of her head, and urgently whispers, Get up! Someone's approaching. A woman pushes the door open and strides into the room. Her curly, thick, dark hair frames a face with piercing blue eyes. She has a skin-tight red dress that accentuates her curves. The room seems to shrink as she approaches, hands hidden behind her back. I've heard, she begins, her voice low and deliberate, that you girls have been quite naughty. Every action has a reaction, you see. Negative deeds come with negative consequences. Her grip is sudden and unexpected. Twilight and Demi find themselves lifted by their necks, pinned against the wall. The pressure is enough to taunt, not to kill. Dr. Mike may have given you his mercy, but now you're under my watch, she continues, her tone chilling. If his therapeutic methods fail to fix you, then perhaps my unconventional methods will suffice. Under my watch, you'll learn the real meaning of discipline. Remember this, any misstep, and I won't hesitate to put you in your place. With a release, Demi and Twilight crumble to the floor, gasping for air. The woman turns away, and just before she shuts the door, her sinister voice fills the room. Almost forgot to introduce myself. The name's Gothel, Mother Gothel. The door slams shut. Twilight Sparkle begins to break down crying. Demi can't believe what just happened. If I had my damn phone right now, I would have exposed her on Twitter. Demi now appears infuriated at what just happened. She stands up, then looks at Twilight, who is still crying. This is an injustice. She's not allowed to treat us like this. I'm going to do something. I don't care about the consequences. Then she walks to the door and starts banging on it repeatedly. She yells at the top of her lungs, Let us out! Come back here, Mother Gothel, you big-boobed bitch! You don't get to treat us like this! Twilight's heart raced as panic urged through her veins. She sprinted to the door beside Demi, her voice trembling as she blurted out, What are you doing? This is only going to make things worse. Demi turned, determination in her eyes. I'm trying to catch her attention, she said, her voice low and urgent. I have a plan. She's going to walk in, and I'm going to fight her. And when she least expects it, you are going to grab her keys. Then we will make a run for it. Got it? Twilight's mind whirled, trying to process the risky scheme. What? Are you crazy? She stammered. But what if the plan doesn't work? Demi leaned in, her breath a mere whisper. Just trust me. Twilight retreated into the corner of the room as Demi continued to shout profanities, pounding on the door to attract Mother Gothel's attention. The footsteps grew louder, drawing closer. Then, with a swift twist on the doorknob, the door swung open, revealing Mother Gothel with a wrathful look on her face. Without hesitation, she delivered a stinging slap to Demi's face and thundered, How dare you speak that way about me? In retaliation, Demi punches Mother Gothel in the stomach. I'm not going down without a fight, she declared, her voice fierce and unyielding. But Mother Gothel's rage surged like a tempest. Her face turned red, veins pulsating beneath her skin. She spat out her words, venomous and raw. Never in my entire career as a headmistress have I been struck by one of my patients. They all knew better. Her eyes bore into Demi, promising retribution. I'm going to make you wish you were never born. With a chilling, predatory glint in her eyes. In a chaotic frenzy, Mother Gothel lunged at Demi, and both women crashed to the ground, their bodies twisted and withered. Blows exchanged in a desperate struggle. Kicks and punches echoed through the room, fueled by rage and adrenaline. But in her fury, Mother Gothel overlooked a crucial detail. The door remained wide open. Twilight's instincts kicked in, and she sprinted toward the exit. Mother Gothel remains oblivious, her focus solely on the battle with Demi. The two women grapple for supremacy, each desperate to gain the upper hand. Demi manages to straddle Mother Gothel, raining blows upon her jaw. But the enraged headmistress retaliates, delivering a swift kick to Demi's legs, unbalancing her. Now, standing on top of Demi, Mother Gothel unleashes a series of punches directly to her nose. Then, with a brutal grip on Demi's shoulders, she repeatedly slams her head against the padded walls of the room. The impact reverberates, but the room's cushioned confines mitigate the damage. Had it been a cold, unyielding concrete floor, Demi might have not survived. Twilight runs down the hallways to look for help. Then, like a lightning bolt of memory, she recalled that Dr. Mike's office lay just a few rooms away to the left. She sprinted toward it, her heart pounding. Bursting through the door, she found Dr. Mike engrossed in a therapy session with Azealia Banks, perched on a blue couch. Azalea's gaze bore into Twilight, her words sharp. "Bitch, can't you see we're busy?" Twilight's retort was swift. "Shut up, Azealia." "Dr. Mike, I need your help. It's an emergency. I'll explain on the way there." Without hesitation, Dr. Mike rose from his chair, following Twilight as they raced back into the chaos beyond the office door. Back in the sterile, white-padded room, Mother Gothel exerted her strength, pinning Demi's arms beneath her legs. Demi's screams echoed off the walls as the pressure intensified. But Mother Gothel wasn't done. She placed both hands firmly on Demi's forehead, her voice a venomous snarl. "I'm going to crush your skull into pieces!" Suddenly, a commanding voice sliced through the chaos. Dr. Mike stood at the door, with Twilight beside him. His expression is a mix of shock and fury. Fury. "Mother Gothel, what the hell are you doing?" he thundered. "I'm calling the authorities. This is not the way to handle patients." In the hallway, Trisha Paytas, a nurse in a pristine white uniform, pushed a medicine-laden cart. Dr. Mike's urgency reached her ears. "Trisha, call the cops immediately. Mother Gothel is trying to murder one of our patients." Trisha nodded, sprinting toward the office to grab the phone. Dr. Mike wasted no time. He shoved Mother Gothel, pushing her away from Demi. Demi sat up, her face contorted in pain, her hand cradling her skull. Twilight dashes into the room, extending a hand to help Demi rise. Dr. Mike's gaze shifts between Demi and Twilight, his voice urgent. "You ladies need to get somewhere safe now. Run!" Mother Gothel rose, her expression twisted into sinister determination. Dr. Mike edged away, his eyes never leaving her. She advanced, her voice low but venomous. "How dare you? You're supposed to be on my side." The words escalated, rage bubbling up. It's us versus them. How dare you betray me like this? But Dr. Mike stood his ground, unwavering. That's where you are wrong. It's not us versus them. We are here to help them, not to tear them down. You have clearly lost your way. In a swift motion, Dr. Mike sprinted, slamming the door shut, trapping Mother Gothel in the padded room. Her fists pounded the door, her voice echoing through the sterile walls. You're all going to pay. Dr. Mike rolled his eyes, turning to assess the aftermath. In the lounge room, Dr. Mike rushes in, pushing through the crowd of curious patients and staff. His eyes scanned the scene. Demi, sitting on a small couch, cradling an ice pack to her head. Twilight, her ever-loyal friend, consoling her. And Trisha Paytas, the nurse, diligently examining Demi's body for injuries. The room buzzes with anticipation as everyone waits to see what unfolds. Are you guys okay? Dr. Mike's concern is palpable. Demi nods, her voice steady. I'm fine. Trisha interjects, her tone professional. She has a couple of minor injuries, but she should be okay. I've already called the cops, just like you requested. They suddenly hear a loud knock on the door. It's the police! Open up! Dr. Mike speed walks to the door and opens it. Thank goodness you're here, officers. She's right over here. The cops follow Mike to the white padded room. He opens the door with his key, and the cops rush into the room to arrest Mother Gothel. The crowd begins to follow Mother Gothel as they take her out of the building. They all stand in the front lobby as the cops walk Mother Gothel out the door. Demi and Twilight both have sad looks on their faces as they catch a glimpse of the outside world. Dr. Mike looks at them and notices. Then he softly says, I apologize for all the things you two went through here. I feel as though it's all my fault. I wasn't aware of how abusive Mother Gothel was. I just thought she was strict. But I could have never imagined that she was physically abusive. He looks down at his feet, feeling guilty. Twilight, Demi, you two are free to go. Twilight and Demi look at each other in shock, wondering if they both heard right. Dr. Mike gestures his head toward the door and whispers, Go. They smile at him. Thank you, Doctor. You don't know how much this means to us, Twilight says with tears of joy on her face. Demi and Twilight hug Dr. Mike, then they walk out. As they step into the parking lot, the sun kisses their faces, and the breeze whispers promises of freedom. They take a good look at the sky and all the other surroundings. They've escaped the clutches of Rehab, and now the world lies before them like an open book. We're finally free, Demi shouts, her voice echoing through the empty parking lot. She twirls, arms outstretched, as if embracing the universe itself. Twilight watches her, torn between joy and a lingering ache. For Demi, this is a new beginning, a chance to reclaim her life. But for Twilight, it's a bittersweet moment. She still can't use her magic, so she has no way home. She sighs as she sits on the asphalt. I still can't use my magic. There's no way for me to get home. Her eyes meet Demi's, and the weight of their shared struggles hangs heavy in the air. Demi sits down near Twilight, her expression determined. Listen, Twilight, my home is your home. You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together. Her kindness warms Twilight's heart, and she blinks back tears. Really? Twilight asks, her voice small. Demi nods. Absolutely. Besides, who needs magic when you've got a friend like me? She winks, and Twilight can't help but smile. Their journey ahead may be uncertain, but they've learned that the strength lies in unity. As they hug, Demi whispers, "We'll find a way, Twilight. And until then, we'll make new memories, one day at a time." And so, under the vast sky, two souls, bruised but unbroken, set forth, ready to pen their own story. Demi Lovato has no father. The end.